I'm probably gonna piss a lot of people off with this, and you know what? That is okay. I have no problem with that whatsoever because I have to talk about this, all right? A lot of people are asking for this, and I understand why in some capacity. I do, but I have to bring to light why I do not think this is a good idea. You may say, Cray, what are you talking about? And I am talking about a PvE only mode in Marathon, all right? To preface though, I have to say this. If it ends up becoming a thing in the future, I want you all to know, and I want you all to hear from me, that I am okay with that. If Bungie sat down and felt like it would be a viable option and that they can balance it and make it happen and, you know, the PvE community would enjoy it, then I am all good. Why? Because it means that there's another means for individuals to be able to enjoy Marathon, and that's what I want at the end of the day, right? But again, I think adding a PvE only mode into Marathon, at least without proper allocation, is a mistake, and I'm going to explain why here. All right, so I got a couple notes right here. Really, these notes are to keep me on track because y'all know your boy can ramble, and I want to make sure I stay concise here with this conversation, you know? So I have a couple whys here, right? I have a couple whys. The first why as to why a PvE only mode in Marathon could be a bit tricky and why it probably shouldn't be a thing would be that it's going to take some development resources. Did I phrase that right? No, I did not phrase that right. It's going to take for Bungie to allocate some resources towards that respective mode, right? And a lot of people think making a PvE only mode is just going to be it's going to be a matter of flipping a switch. You know, switch off, switch on, PvE only. Like, no, that's not the case. There's going to be a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to bring this to fruition, right? There's going to be a ton of balancing across the board, right? Because there are not other enemy players on the map, right? You got to do event balancing. You got to make sure the structure is going to uphold. They're just not going to tack it on, because if they were to just do that, PvE players would be like, bro, what is this? This is stupid. This is dumb. You know what I'm saying? And if I know Bungie in any capacity, this may sound a little silly, they won't want to deliver a product like that. Actually, let me rephrase that entire sentence. Bungie cannot deliver a half-assed product. They can't deliver a tacked on PvE mode because Marathon has some heat on it, and it needs to be successful for Bungie to have an opportunity to continue doing what they do in the future, right? So they are not going to half-ass a PvE mode. Like, it's just not going to happen. And then from like a passionate developer standpoint, if I'm a passionate developer, I'm not going to half-ass a PvE mode. I'm just not. I'm going to make sure if we're going to do this, if we're going to bring this to fruition, if Joey Z came to me and said, yo, we working on the PvE mode, get it ready by season 3, I'm gonna lock in, and I want to make sure it's the best experience possible, right? So again, I said we like I work for Bungie, man. No, I don't. If I did, I would have to disclose that, but I digress. But again, Bungie would have to allocate a ton of resources to bringing that up to par and to shipping that out, right? And I don't know if Marathon has the capacity to allocate resources to something like that, right? At least to do it the right way. If they did, it would take away from the core experience, and it would totally veer away from Marathon's vision of being this hardcore but yet accessible extraction shooter. Like it just would, you know? And I don't want to talk, I'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, ultimately, I think that it may take too much. It may take too much away from the core extraction loop, okay? Another thought I have in regard to why I don't know if this is going to be in the best interest of individuals to bring a PvE mode into Marathon would be that they would literally be cannibalizing players from their other IP. And look, I know Destiny 2 is in the worst state it has ever been in. Like, that is fact. That is objective. That is like bar none, right? But I believe that Bungie is going to make a strive to revitalize Destiny 2 in some capacity. Will they be successful? Hey, look, that's another convo for another day. But I know for a fact that they're going to try to pump life back into Destiny 2 in some capacity. And Destiny 2 has evolved to be Bungie's PvE experience, right? It would be like this. It would be like, I don't know, what's another developer? It would be like Riot Games, right? Riot Games created Valorant, right? Imagine they created another game called Marker. I don't know. Why Marker? I don't know, right? And Marker was a shooter, but everybody was asking Valorant, man, put a 5v5 search and destroy type mode in it. Put a 5v5 attack defend mode in it. Riot Games would be like, I hear y'all, but no, because that would take away from Valorant's entire identity. You know what I'm saying? So like having a PvE mode in Marathon and really doctoring it up so it's the full PvE experience, right? Where you're going in and you're teaming up and you're doing missions and fighting bosses and everything. Doesn't that sound a bit like Destiny 2 in some capacity, right? It's like, again, now you start to cannibalize your player base from your other IP, and if that other IP is already struggling, you'll accidentally kill off that other IP, which Destiny 2 is struggling. So I don't see that being a thing, and I don't see that being the case because, again, if Bungie's going to do PvE and Marathon, they're going to strive to do it the right way. If they do it the right way, it's going to pull from Destiny. And then guess what? Destiny comes out, let's say Destiny was revitalized. Oh my gosh, like we're back, like Guardians, we're here, you know? Then all those players that came to Marathon will go back to Destiny, right? So then they would be cannibalizing from their newer IP, or they're not resuscitated, but they're, what's the word? Not revamped, revitalized. I can't think of the word, but their IP that they brought back to life. They're now pulling players away from that, right? So there would be this tug. In business, it makes so much more sense to create different business ventures. Like imagine being, you know, the owner of McDonald's and then opening up a McDonald's competitor and launching all the McDonald's competitors in the same neighborhood. It's like, why? Like, no, well, what we can do is we can open up a salad bar so that we can compete with all the other salad places, or, you know, we'll create like our own luxury bowl equivalent so we can compete with Chipotle and Kava and places like that. You know what I mean? So I'm rambling here a little bit. I hope that makes sense there. But again, that's another one of my points. I just don't think it's good business to put two of your IPs head to head with one another, right? Which is part of the reason why I believe Bungie made Marathon an extraction shooter, because had it been an arena type game, then it would kind of pull away from the Crucible and PvP and Destiny 2, even though we know PvP and Destiny 2 no longer has a pulse. But again, another conversation for another day, all right? Another point I have here in regard to PvE, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, is that a PvE only game mode in Marathon would be boring. I don't know why nobody is saying this, why nobody like is thinking about this, right? I think most people, actually, I kind of know why. I think most people are thinking about a PvE only mode as being relaxing, right? Something they can kick back after a long day, jump in with the homies and just go, right? They look at it through the lens of Helldivers, right? Or maybe even through the lens of Arc Raiders, you know? And they're like, man, that would be such a vibe. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it wouldn't be a vibe with the way that Marathon was constructed from the ground up. Think about it like this. Helldivers 2 from the ground up was constructed to be a PvE game, a PvE experience with the homies, right? Arc Raiders up until what, 2022, 2023-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, it was a PvE only game. Like, the CEO of the studio came out and was like, yo, this is boring. This is boring. This is not going to work. We need to find a way to liven our game, which they pivoted into it being an extraction adventure, as they call it, right? So the framework of both of those respective games were PvE only, right? So it's a reason why you could jump into Arc Raiders and be a pacifist and just have a blast doing it. Makes sense. You do that in Marathon, I can guarantee you, after a weekend of PvE only, and again, this is if Bungie didn't change anything, if they just flipped the switch and rushed out a PvE mode, right? Y'all would be like, man, bro, this is like, Cryo Archive is kind of fun, but all I'm doing is shooting bots and looking for batteries and looking for keys to get greater clearance, and like I get to the compiler. Like, I don't think people realize the thing that makes Marathon what it is the fact that there are other teams on the map that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. And if you are in their way, they will take you out, or you have to take them out, right? Like that VP part in the PvE sphere, that plays a big role. That does a lot of carrying, for better or for worse, right? It does a lot of carrying in this respective genre. If it was PvE only, again, either Bungie would have to allocate a ton of resources to really liven up like the PvE gameplay loop, which if they do that, they only have so many resources. They're going to take away from that core gameplay loop and the core experience, the core experience of Marathon. So now the extraction loop isn't getting as much love, but the PvE loop is getting a lot of love. And even with it getting a lot of love, it's a gamble because we don't know if it's going to be successful or not. It may be successful for a week or two, and then players are like, I'm bored, right? We're kind of seeing that happen with Arc Raiders right now. A lot of the PvE enthusiasts, they're like, man, I can only kill the Matriarch so many times, the Queen so many times, fight Shredders so many times. And like, I know they just dropped a new map and they got like a new big bad, but I've even seen some people say, yeah, it's fun the first few times, but the new map is slightly underwhelming, and like, I'm tired of shooting robots. So guess what? Those PvE players go on to other PvE experiences, or they go to single player games because they can double dip, because their experience is fighting the environment, also known as the AI. So they can dip into whatever game they want. When you're dealing with PvP players, our choices are so much more limited because we have preferences. You know, people that enjoy Bungie's gunplay, they're going to stick with Destiny and they're going to stick with Marathon, right? People that enjoy like faster paced shooters, they're going to stick with maybe Call of Duty, but mostly like an Apex Legends, right? Again, PvP cats are, and I don't want to use the term loyal, but they're much more, their preference is much more prominent in comparison to a PvE player. PvE players just enjoy rocking with the homies, kicking back, relaxing, and they can do that on a dozen other games. It's not in the same universe, but still. So again, if Bungie was to add a PvE mode, I want you all to know I'm with it, because Bungie ran numbers and they felt like they could successfully do so, provide a quality PvE experience, but yet still not neglect the main core experience of Marathon, right? And if they felt like they could do that, then who am I to say they can't, right? And guess what? I'm gonna let y'all in on a secret. If they launched a PvE mode and it was terrible, and it took resources away from the core gameplay loop, and it caused Marathon to completely like implode, and the game fell apart, and the game just was a shell of its former self, we have other games that we can play and that we can move on to. Again, that's not our problem as the consumer. Like, I love Bungie. I love what they've done in the past with Halo, with Destiny, and even with Marathon, even though it isn't the most popular game in the world. I love it. I wish and pray nothing but the best for the developers, the entire team, everybody. But if they blew a hole in their own foot and did not have the ability to patch it up, and it absolutely eradicated the game, and the game completely fell off of a cliff, I'm going to say, man, that sucks. But I'm gonna find something else to rock with, because look, I'm the consumer, and you know, I'm not I don't work for Bungie. I hate to say it that way, and I don't even know why I'm talking about this here. Part of it is just the fact that a lot of people are putting so much weight into the Steam charts and into the, you know, what's going on, and like people are trying to be armchair analysts and stuff like that. And I'm like, dog, just play the game, or don't play the game, and go find something that you enjoy to play. Stop Steam chart watching. Stop acting like you know better than these developers that have been developing games for over a decade, and like, just stop. Just enjoy the product, or don't enjoy the product, and find something else that you enjoy. And if the product ends up failing, man, shucks, that sucks. At least we had a great time. I pray those developers find another project they can move to, or they find another job elsewhere so they can continue pursuing their passions, and we keep on rolling. You know what I'm saying? So, ramble over. I just had to throw that in there. I'm going to shut up now, though. I hope I got my points across. I may not have, because sometimes I am terrible at explaining my points, and if that was the case, I apologize for wasting your time. But if you all understand what I said here, awesome, cool. Either way though, let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Do you all believe, you know what, Cray, you got some good points here? Or would you say, nah, Cray, I respectfully disagree. I still think they can pull it off and allocate resources accordingly, so on and so forth. Either way, it's all good. Let's keep the convo civil. Again, comment down below. I'm very interested to read what you all have to say. I'll heart, I'll respond to as many comments as I possibly can. At this point in time, I can't respond to them all though, because I'm getting a lot of love and I appreciate that. But either way though, comment down below, like the video. I love you all. Thank you all so much for coming and watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.